And welcome back to the greatest anime podcast of all time, the Anime Egotist, where we love our fans, but particularly if they like, subscribe, comment, and all that other weird stuff. Anyways, my name's Alex, and I only cry 2 or 3 times a week nowadays.
Way down from college, and I'm Richard.
That is correct. And last time we did a video like this, we talked about the worst episodes in anime, and it was not a good time. I was not ready for a good time because that's not what we got.
Yeah, I mean, it could. Some of ours were the bad episodes of good anime. Some of them were the bad episodes of bad anime, which make everything worse.
Yeah, that's right. But we want to be a little more positive today. So today we want to talk about the best episodes in anime, the episodes that make us laugh, sometimes cry, make us feel, all this other sorts of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, these can be the difference makers in episodes. Some of them completely change how you would view an anime. Others are really good endings to arcs. You name it, we'll probably cover it in this.
That's right. And just a PSA, a lot of these episodes are from anime we've talked about before. There were a couple that I want to include from shows we haven't talked about as much, but I want to save that for a little different video, and I want to talk to you about that maybe once we're done recording.
Yep, sounds good.
Yeah, but I started us off with a depressing one last time. Do you mind starting us off this time?
Sure, I'll go first. So I've talked a little bit about this one, not much detail. So it's Star Blazers, Season 1, Episode 5, Jupiter's Floating Continent.
Okay, let's hear it.
So at this point, all of our main cast has pretty much been introduced. We know a little bit about the ship and all that where this and what the adventure and the goal is. So this takes place, I believe, right after they make pretty much a warp jump. They jump from Mars to Jupiter, and they lose control of the ship. It gets caught in Jupiter's gravity and gets pulled into the atmosphere, where they discover a hidden floating continent. And it's revealed that the bad guys, the Gamelons, have a hidden base on the continent. That's where they're observing Earth from.
Because why not?
So it's them discovering this little base, trying to fix the ship, getting attacked. Well, then they turn their ultimate weapon on the continent. Their main goal is just to destroy the base, leave the continent for themselves once they've managed to save the Earth. So they fire the wave motion gun. It uses the power of the warp engines to fire a massive beam of energy out the front of the ship. It destroys the continent, and they realize that, and I think it depends on the version you watch. They in both, it's very anti. There's no reason that we needed a weapon this strong, but at the end of the episode, they didn't need to destroy the continent. They just wanted to destroy the base. Well, I think again, as I was saying, based on the version you watch, I think in the original, both the gun and the engine are invented by Iskandar, the people they're going to get the technology to save Earth from. But in the newer version, it's only the engine. The humans have turned it into a weapon as well. And they're like, what have we brought into this world or into this universe?
That seems to be a common trope of humans realizing, oh my god, we're monsters, and me being like, yeah, kinda.
Kind of reminds me of those space orc things where humans are actually the space orcs.
Yeah, basically that.
But again, it's very much they destroy the continent and realize what they've created or what the power of this actual weapon is. And it's just a really good episode. You get the visuals of the continent being destroyed by this massive beam weapon that they have that, again, they'll use later on because it's their go-to weapon at this point.
Yeah. I don't have a whole lot more to add. I feel like Star Blazers is something you should have shown me when we were in college.
It was hard to find when we were in college. They didn't even have it on most websites that because I mean they have it on Funimation, both the original and the new one now. But I don't know if it's on Crunchyroll or anything we had back in college.
Yeah. Anyways, though, so I can start with my first one. I guess I have to agree to that. I can start with my first episode.
Go ahead.
All right, this is going to be a little bit of an odd one, but I stand by it. Pokemon Season 8, so Pokemon Advanced Battle Episode 9, Date Expectations. How do I even begin with this one? This is one of those episodes that is really, really funny, but kind of dramatic and heartbreaking at times. But it's just kind of an odd episode when you start to think about it. So, the get Max. Why did I start with Max? Ash, May, Max, and Brock are on this boat with this guy named Carlos, and they're heading to, I think it's Pacifilog Town, for May's next contest. All of a sudden, the boat stalls, and Carlos is like, "Oh, well, I can't fix the boat for another 4 to 5 hours. So what you guys can do is go onto this island over here, and if you go through that, you can find the ferry, and they can take you guys to Pacifilog Town." All of a sudden, is this episode ringing a bell so far?
Not really, but it's been a long time since I've watched anything past Johto or and before the new stuff. So there's kind of
Oh,
like 7 or 8 seasons I don't haven't watched.
all right. So I'll go. Okay. So, anyways, so they get to this island, and there's a bunch of Dawn fan rolling around. First of all, I find it cool that when they use the Pokedex to find out what Dawn fan is, Ash is immediately like, "Oh, that's right. Fanpy evolves into Dawn fan," and he actually thinks about his Fanpy. Gee, Ash remembering a Pokemon he caught. That's to me that's insane because he seems to forget them on a nearly episode to episode basis. I'm surprised he remembers half of their names. But
Yeah, it's only the episodes where he goes back to Pallet Town that he seems to actually go, "Oh, I have this Pokemon," or it's
yeah,
Charizard.
yeah, basically. So they all start avoiding the Don fan rolling around and everything, and and Brock kind of realizes, "Oh, that's right. The Don fan are doing this for like their mating season," which that's not necessarily what makes the episode all that great. Because I'm not huge on Pokemon episodes involving romance or anything, but I'm gonna talk a little more about that. Team Rocket are pretty much the MVPs of this episode, but that's nothing new. That's really nothing new. And their plan is, okay, guys, let's catch. Meowth's like, let's catch all the Dawn fan, and James is like, why? What's the boss going to use them for? So Meowth has one of his typical fantasies of, oh, hey, the boss can use it as a bowling ball. He won't have any pins left after that. And James is like, well, with how big it is, he won't have a bowling alley anymore. And it's like, oh, he can use it for transportation. He can balance on it. And James is like, where would he put his belongings? And Meowth says, in the trunk, of course. I'm like, oh my god, that's horrible. Team Rocket have the ability to say anything horrible, like a horrible pun or something, and they make it hilarious. But so as the episode progresses, it starts to they meet a Dawn fan and they help it find this shiny Dawn fan that it wants to be with. But throughout the episode, it's getting later and later into the day. And the thing about this next upcoming contest for May is it's the last contest. If she can't get her fifth ribbon or even compete in the contest, she can't compete in the Grand Festival until the next year. So it's really important to her that she makes it. So when everybody gets split up at one point, and Ash tells May, just go on the ferry, go on the ferry. I'll help. I'll find Max and Brock, and we'll catch up with you at the contest. This is your dream. You have to do this. And then May has a flashback where her mom says, basically, you have to take care of Max because he's your little brother. And she's like, of course I will. And she ends up telling Ash, no, I'm staying. I'm staying with you guys, and we're going to find I and Max together because I have to look after him. The second she says that, the ferry takes off. As a kid, I was like, no, I refuse to believe this. And she actually starts crying, and she's like, no, I'm okay. Let's go find them. The day's saved, and May goes off on Team Rocket and pretty much beats them single-handedly, which was pretty hilarious. And at the end of the day, Carlos shows up and he's like, "Hey guys, I got the boat running." So they make it on time. It's just a nice, funny episode. A lot of heartwarming moments. It's just good character development all around for everybody.
I don't really remember much of the details, but I do remember this episode. Once you explained that it was the Dawn fan and with the Shining Dawn fan
Yeah,
part, I knew which episode you were talking about at that point.
exactly.
Again, I only vaguely remember it, so I'll just have to
Yeah.
co-sign.
Yeah, the one thing about, and I want to kind of get your opinion on this because I hate that we have to keep bringing this up. We've talked about the game characters before. We've talked about Ethan. We've talked about Brendan almost exclusively at this point. Hey, the one thing I would have like we talked about, what if they were in the anime? Hey, something that would have been kind of cool to me is if Brendan's the one who found a way to fix the boat. Oh, and Carlos is like, oh, some kid with white hair, or maybe it was his hat. I don't know what it was, but he offered to fix it. And they're like, Brendan, no, he doesn't like us or anything. He wouldn't do that. He wouldn't do that. And Brendan's like, the one time I do something nice for you idiots, you know what? You know what? I hope you lose now. I don't care. I don't care. Don't even. And the one little thing I forgot to mention about this episode, May's running gag of whatever this was, May's expeditions.
Yes.
Brendan would have been perfect for that. He's like, "That's right, man. Hey, and today our fans are going to be in for a treat. Heck, we should change our name to what? Anime Egotists. No, that'd be terrible. Never mind."
Yeah, again, we've talked way too much about those two. We need to eventually make the sequel videos where we talk about each of the other protagonists from the games, how we would introduce them into the into the anime.
Dibs on Lucas from Diamond and Pearl.
Well, I meant like we would both talk about one because the last video was kind of confusing when we did that.
Oh no, people loved it. Anyways, let's move on.
Okay. So I'm going to start my next one with Naruto Season 1, Episode 19, The Demon in the Snow.
Oh, okay.
So this is the kind of climactic episode of the first major arc, the Land of Waves arc in Naruto.
Okay, yeah, I remember this.
So Haku has pretty much already been impaled. He lost his battle with Demon Fox Naruto, sacrificed himself to save Zabuza. We get our first Takano Jutsu in this episode where Naruto tells Zabuza about how he wants to how he was friends with Haku and how much Haku actually loved Zabuza, as kind of how it goes. We end up with Zabuza's kind of change of heart. He attacks the mob boss when he turns on him.
With no arms, keep in mind.
Well, this is kind of the big. I thought this was for kids. It's at this point. This was the episode I remember watching and going, "Ew, this is not kids." I mean, there's the episode earlier in this arc where Zabuza's fake killed by Haku, but this is, I mean, there's actual death in this anime.
Yeah, this was scary to watch as a kid. At the same time, I'm like, this is kind of cool. Well, at the same time, though, it's a really cathartic, emotional thing, and especially at the end of the arc when they're burying them, and Naruto's like, in a weird way, they were our enemies, but I actually kind of like them, and Kakashi's like, yeah, I like them too, which apparently is also a line that the fourth Hokage said. He's said before, you might be my enemy, but I actually like you. So that was a pretty cool way of tying it together before we even knew who the fourth Hokage was.
Exactly. And I think it's in this episode. There may be an episode 20, but you also get the little bits of where they complete the bridge and then they name it the Great Naruto Bridge.
Yeah, which I mean, I would have called it the Great Kakashi Bridge just because of how much he did for it, or the Great Team 7 Bridge, but no, just Naruto. Just Naruto. I mean, they did it better than the Abridged series, because the Abridged series called it the Great Iruka Bridge, which I'm okay with, but at the same time, he didn't do anything this arc. But I agree, this was the episode that pretty much hooked me onto Naruto, and then there were several episodes after that we've talked about that got everybody hooked.
Yeah, I mean, there's a ton, especially in the first, pretty much all these first arcs in Naruto had some really good episodes in them.
Yeah, and
There
I
was
don't
some
want to.
bad, but there
Yeah,
was some
and I don't
good.
want to sell Shippuden short because people crap all over Shippuden, and to some extent I agree, but they had some awesome arcs and episodes. But I'm sure we'll talk about that later in this video.
Yep.
Okay, so my next episode.
Go right ahead.
Okay, Yu-Gi-Oh! 5D's episode 71 and 72, French Twists, part 1 and 2. This is an episode of Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds that does a really good job of establishing drama, intensity, and feelings, but at the same time is also flippin' hilarious because Yusei ends up getting kidnapped because apparently one of his jobs is doing house calls to fix people's bikes or something like that. Sure, I mean, if it pays the bills, I guess that's fine. So he basically gets kidnapped by these people, and I've talked about the WRGP tournament and or however whatever the hell it's called. WGRP, whatever it's called. You know the tournament I'm talking about.
Hmm.
And I've talked about just how a lot of the duels were really cool and everything. But the people kidnapping Yusei basically say, hey, you're joining our team whether you want to or not. And Yusei's like, what if I don't feel like playing along? I'm like, Yusei, these guys have you kidnapped and you're making jokes about it. I mean, I respect it and all, but it's a little weird. And so the whole first part he's trying to get out, and then the next part of the same episode, Crow, Jack, and Akiza are all like, and like Jack's like, wait, are you sure you haven't found it? And Crow's like, you're sure you haven't found him? And Jack's like, no, I've checked everywhere. Here, if you're so worried, why don't you go look for him? And Crow's like, well, I would, but Clucky's crispy chicken won't deliver itself. And they start talking about chicken for about the next 2 minutes. And Akisa's like, okay, guys, what if something bad happened to you, say? Hey, and somebody else is like, oh no, I'm sure he's fine. And then Crow's like, actually, I got this voicemail. And the voicemail literally says, your friend Yusei's been taken. I thought you should know. Oh, and I'm like, I'd like to think that if somebody ever took me, they would be very blunt, like, hey, we took Alex, so just if you want a heads up or something. And Akisa gets pissed about it, and rightfully so, because she's the one person who seems to want to save Yusei, which leads to one of the funniest exchanges in the whole show, where she's like, well, Crow, why didn't you tell us? And Crow's like, well, I didn't want to worry anybody. And Akisa's like, I am going to cobble you. And I'm like, cobble what? And Jack says, Akisa, I think you mean clobber. To cobble is to make a shoe. Dude, I'm just like, does Jack have a dictionary on him? Because I didn't know. Did you know what that meant? I don't.
I mean, I did, but I'm just again, I haven't seen that much of 5Ds, so I'm just picturing a bridge series, Jack
You
Atlas
would
saying
think
it.
this is the abridged. He would have killed this scene. And then she says, "Well, whatever. Then I'll cobble up some shoes and use them to kick Crow's butt." I'm like, "Nice save, hey." And then Jack teases Akiza of liking Yusei. She gets pissed about it. All of a sudden, they catch up to him, and Akiza actually uses one of her monsters to save Yusei. Hey, which I'm like, she breaks open the truck with one of her monsters. I'm like, wait, monsters can just attack trucks and actual objects whenever they want? That it seems a little weird for holograms, but we've talked about this before. The mechanics in Yu-Gi-Oh don't really make that much sense when you start to think about it for more than a minute.
I mean, at least when they were shadow games, they actually mentioned that the monsters become alive in the
Yeah,
shadow games, but
yeah.
this
So,
isn't that era.
so they say Akiza and they basically help each other out. They're rescued, and they do, and Yusei duels this not shadow duels, this turbo duelist, and they think, oh, they're part of the people who kidnapped him. And Yusei's like, no, that doesn't seem like it's it. Him and the duelist have a good back and forth between them. It seems like they have counters for everything, which makes me sad that I didn't talk about this duel more in our best Yu-Gi-Oh duels. But the duelist unmasks, and it's this woman named Sherry, and she has a French accent, which actually it's played off pretty well. Oh, we learn a lot about her backstory and how her parents disappeared, and they pretty much might be dead. And remember, this is Yu-Gi-Oh, and they're pretty much saying, yeah, they could be dead. They could be long dead. Their duel gets interrupted by the people who kidnapped Yusei, but Sherry's bodyguard basically beats them up with his bare hands in a 4-on-1. And and Akiza learns it's a great character development for Akiza because she decides I want to be a turbo duelist because I've never done this before, and everybody seems so much more connected with each other. It's a great duel, a great episode, and it's surprisingly hilarious considering everything 5Ds has hit us with.
It does sound like a pretty good episode. I do like the jokes. Again, it does sound like something the abridged series might have
Yeah,
uh, replaced lines with.
the line between the official series and the abridged series is just completely collapsing, and I'm on board for it, if I'm being completely honest.
But again, if that's actually lines, then if Little Kribo ever actually gets around to making 5Ds a bridge series, which is what, 6 seasons, 6 series away at this point,
Yep.
uh, it would have to he'd have to do actual 4 kids dialogue and just have his character versions do it.
Yeah. Yeah. The whole time, it's one of the funniest scenes out there, and just with Jack being like, this whole Yusei thing's really got you going, Akiza. If I didn't know it better, I'd say you were in love with. And she makes the most terrifying face. It's like you'd think when she was being like controlled with her psychic powers and everything, she was terrifying, but like no. Just if anybody brings up, hey, do you like Yusei? That seems to be her tipping point. Like I said, it's a funny episode, but it's also like a really powerful episode that not a lot of people talk about.
It does sound interesting.
All right, watch
So
5Ds, you son of a bitch.
eventually, it's actually on one of my lists, I think.
Mm-hmm. What's your next one?
So my next one is Naruto Shippuden episode 478. So this is the unison sign. It's the end of Naruto and Sasuke's battle at the end of the series.
Okay, yeah.
So we've already talked about the war arc a ton. We've mentioned that it's a good arc. There are some little points that would be interesting to make some changes to. We don't like the ending of the war arc itself, but this is after that. This is a climactic battle. Whoever wins is pretty much going to try to take over or is going to have their ideology win. It's Naruto versus Sasuke.
Yep, for like the fifth or sixth time. Not that I minded at this point.
They go back to the Valley of the End. Is that
The
what it's called?
final valley.
Final Valley. Um, and pretty much recreate Madara and oh god, what's his name? The first Hokage's
Hashirama?
Hashirama's final battle. All their major attacks are shown off here. We get flashbacks, but in this one, again, we get a bit more of those flashbacks throughout the at this part of the battle, and Sasuke comes to finally understand Naruto completely. Is kind of the main point of this episode. He realizes what Naruto went through, how much he really wanted to, and it ends with them both losing arms. They're laying there, and there's the blood is going in and forming their hands, and then below them, the statues have formed what was, I guess, it's called the unison sign, where they link 2 fingers to
Is
each
it
other.
this thing?
Yeah,
Okay. I do like this episode. It is one of those things that it is kind of hampered by everything that happened beforehand, but it's still a really good send off to their rivalry, especially when you think of people have added the line of Sasuke saying, "Hey, I lost this fight, but you were joking about whoever loses this fight marries Sakura, right?" And Naruto's like, "Nope."
oh god. And then there's but yeah, again, this is kind of Naruto finally truly overcoming Sasuke and winning their battles, because throughout the series, every time they fought, it's either been a draw or Sasuke's won at this point.
Yeah, basically, I can agree with that. It's a really solid episode. All right, so I'm
Um,
up.
yep.
Okay, Yu-Gi-Oh! GX episode 24, The New Chaz. I know you know this episode. I know for a fact you know this episode.
Okay.
This is so to cap it off, Chaz is in the English version he leaves, but in the Japanese version he's expelled from Duel Academy. He's on this boat in the middle of nowhere, cursing Bastion, Crowler, and Jaden just for all of his failings. And he's stuck with this imaginary Jaden in his head, which I'm going to be honest, out of all the imaginary friends I could have, another Jaden Yuki isn't one of them, which is surprising because this Jaden is actually a bit more hilarious than the one we have. But he falls into the ocean, as we all know, and when he resurfaces, this masked figure has all of his cards and basically tosses all of them, and he gives him Ojama Yellow, which would come to be one of Chaz's most important cards down the line.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden, and Ojama Yellow is basically a dual spirit now. He can talk to Chaz, for better or for worse. Anyways, so Chaz gets to North Academy and what they perceive as North Academy, and he's thinking to himself, okay, hey, so now I just have to get in. But there's this man with a fire next to him. I'm not sure how he started a fire in the middle of this ice tundra or whatever, but regardless, as he was thinking, the man tells him you can't go in without 40 cards, and Chaz only has the one Ojama. So Chaz spends the episode going around the whole area collecting a bunch of cards, and he's not thinking, well, this card's not that great or this card's not that great, like his old attitude. He's actually thinking, I don't have a whole lot of options, so I'm going to take all of these cards while I can. He gets back, and he tells the man, and I have 40 cards. And the guy's like, oh, well, I guess you'll be on your way. Hey, and then Chaz is like, no, on second thought, the thing is, I lied. I didn't have 40 cards. I had 41. He tries to give him Ojama Yellow, but instead he just gives him another card. The guy goes in, and Chaz is like, great. I actually only have 39 cards now, which shows that Chaz is actually becoming a better person. Like, he thought of somebody else above himself. Of course, he finds the last card and he gets into North Academy, and he duels 50 of the students there and beats them all. Four of them at the same time, and it's kind of scary. The one thing about this episode that's kind of ridiculous to me is one of the students, Kyle, who looks like a teenage boy, has the highest pitched voice imaginable. Go back and listen to the dub. It's really bizarre to hear this. Little Karibo has made fun of his bedtime and stuff before, and honestly, it's justified. But Chaz beats everybody, becomes the number one duelist in the school, and he learns that the man Foster, great name by the way, he actually has plans for him to be their representative in the school duel against Jaden. And it's a great episode for Chaz's character development, and serves as Chaz having some of the best character development that we've seen in anime. It's just a really nice thing to see.
Yes, I do remember this episode. This was one of my favorite episodes of GX, because I actually remember watching this when it first premiered. But yeah, it's just it is a really good episode. The reveal that the guy that's kind of just sitting out there is the principal. It's like, oh, okay, but okay, yeah, let's just go with that.
Yeah, the one thing about this episode that does make me sad though is that nobody else can see Ojama Yellow. It's just Chaz at this point. And when Chaz says, I summon Giant Rat in defense mode, and he gets into a fight with Ojama Yellow, and everybody's looking at Chaz clearly like he's insane, which he but he's like you're yellow, ugly, and gross, and I don't like you. And Giant Rat has the saddest look on his face, like, oh my, like, do not insult Giant Rat like that, sir. And the other people dressed him like, okay, disgusting maybe, but that thing's not yellow. Please get your eyes checked. But it's a funny, brilliant episode that serves as one of the best character development episodes I've seen in a really long time. It still holds up all these years later.
Yes, I do, and I watched, I think, through season 2 a couple years ago, and I do remember watching and really enjoying this episode. So I will completely sign on for this one.
Yeah, and then of course after that we get Jaden versus Chaz in the school duel, but we've mentioned that. Anyways, let's move on.
All right. So this is actually one that we probably haven't spoken about much, and it's That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime, season 2, episode 11.
I don't think we've ever talked about this show, but please go ahead.
So it's literally, I mean, the entire premise is in the name. The guy gets stabbed in the first episode in the human world and gets reincarnated as a slime in the magical world.
Because, you know, that's just a regular thing that happens.
One second.
Yeah, that's just I will say the name. I can't even get on this show for how ridiculous the name is because there's one episode on my list with one of the craziest names I've ever seen.
But the name of this one is Birth of a Demon Lord. It is literally kind of a culmination of events at this point. The main character's name is Rimuru. Um, he's pretty much built a monster village with super powered monsters because in this world, if you give something a name, it pretty much evolves into a stronger version of itself. Humans are naturally the strongest because they're born and given names right away. But monsters have to be given a name by either a human or reincarnation. So he's able to give everything names, so he powers everything up. Well, the humans are kind of split. There's a group that support the monster village, and then a group that are kind of following a church that are like monsters are evil. Let's destroy the village. There's other arcs that this is still currently being affected in, so I'm not going to go into too much detail about it. But uh, one of the main human countries is invading, and they do a kind of a like they send in their special forces kind of thing. Their top knights and then 3 reincarnations who have special powers to attack the monster village while Rimuru's away. And this is they kill multiple kind of main monsters in this attack. So Rimuru finds out that if you become a demon lord, you can actually resurrect your followers. So that becomes his main goal. In order to become a demon lord, you have to consume 10,000 human souls. And it just so happens that the main force of the invading country's army is 20,000 strong. So,
because of course it is.
yeah. So he goes on a rampage and absorbs the necessary souls by killing. Actually, I think it's all 20,000 he kills pretty much by himself. He leaves the king and the bishop of the religion alive as prisoners, and then he transforms into a demon lord by going through, I think it's called the Harvest Moon Festival or something like that. Again, and he gets all these new skills and gets to resurrect all his followers. So it's kind of a climactic battle. It's the end of the first half of season 2. It's just a really good episode. You get to see this already overpowered character power up even more and have a good reason for his power up being needed.
And I guess I just have to co-sign on to that.
All
I was
right.
about to say, with all the isekai and fantasy anime, I'm surprised you haven't give Konosuba more of a chance. Really surprised by that in a sense.
I actually struggled. I've tried watching it 2 or 3 times, and I can't really get through the first 2 episodes.
All right.
I normally give 3 episodes a shot, but I can't even get through the first 2.
That's not a good sign. Anyways, my next one.
Go ahead.
Okay, Naruto episode 100. Sensei and student, the bond of the shinobi.
Okay.
All right, this is a pretty hard episode to watch because this is another one of those episodes I saw when it came out, and it's basically addressing Rock Lee's injuries. Now, sure, it's a lot of flashbacks, but they feel motivated. Like we see that Mike Guy and Lee's first meeting, like how Mike Guy was immediately telling Lee, "Hey, keep doing what you're doing, keep your chin up," and Lee was kind of just befuddled by him, like he didn't understand. We also see one of Kakashi and Guy's first interactions on screen, at this point, because it's like, oh, Kakashi, you get to choose the game that we'll be competing in each other against. And Kakashi's like, I don't really want to, but okay. Hey, and the game he picks is rock, paper, scissors. Yeah. And the whole time, Neji, Tenten, and Lee are watching on, and Neji perfectly points out, I think Kakashi Sensei is just messing with him at this point. And Guy loses, and he says, "Because I lost, I'll do 500 laps on the around the village on my hands." Which nobody holds him to except himself, which reinforces, as he says, one's own rule. You have to keep giving yourself challenges and stuff like
Mhm.
that. Which, from what I can tell in society, men have been doing a lot of. So keep doing your thing, guys. Anyways, so Lee notices, and he's like, in the flashback, and he's like, "Wait, what are you doing? Kakashi Sensei won't notice. He won't care if you don't do it." And Guy's like, "No, you have to keep up. You have to tell yourself, once you set yourself to a rule, you have to do it." And Lee is thinking about his injuries and everything, and of course the surgery, where it's 50-50 at best. If it fails, he's gonna die. And we just get to see how much Lee's been suffering, and he's losing it at this point. And Guy's like, "You know what? If you don't go through with the surgery, you'll feel pain worse than what you're feeling right now. So get the surgery. And if for some reason you should happen to fail, I'll die right alongside you." And at first, admittedly, when I was a little kid, I wasn't that bright. So at first, I'm like, "Wait, what does he mean? Does he mean so?" And then as I got older, I'm like, "Oh no, that's what he meant. That's what he meant." Like, it's a heart wrenching thing to think about. And Lee starts crying about it, and it feels so real. And at the end of the episode, it shows that Tsunade's actually working on fixing the percentage, and it shows she's gotten up to like 58 or 60 something percent, and it shows her being inducted as the Hokage. It's just it's a heartwarming episode. It's just really solid.
Yeah, I do remember enjoying this episode. I was trying to figure out exactly which one it was because there are a lot of episodes involving Naruto and Jiraiya at about this point, so I thought it might be something with them. But yes,
Yeah.
this episode is a big.
Yeah. Yeah, and I wanted to include the very first Naruto episode, but this one felt more right to me. And the episode right after that was Kakashi Sensei's true face. So they were just stringing good. The episodes were coming in everywhere. Sadly, the abridged series did not capture this as well because they made the joke that Tsunade's like, "Oh well, it was at 50%. Now it's at 51%." And Guy's like, "You seriously spent all this time for nothing?" And she's like, "Well, now I know I have to wash my hands before surgery." I'm like, "Lee, you might just want to move on at this point." And
He's the brightest medical mind in the entire ninja world at this point.
Yeah, and Guy Sensei says in the abridged series, "Get the surgery, and if you just happen to die, 1010 will die right alongside you." He's like, "Don't you mean you will, Guy?" And Guy's like, "I know what I said." But it like 100th episode, it's brilliant. I cried watching it when I was a kid. It's brilliant.
Yes, it is a really good episode.
Anyway, so honorable mentions time already?
Yep. All right. So my first honorable mention is Dragon Ball Z Season 3, Episode 21. Transformed at Last.
Okay.
So this is the episode that's kind of been built up through the entire series at this point of Dragon Ball Z. They've mentioned the legendary Super Saiyan throughout it's like every other episode in the Namek series.
Well, to be fair,
I'm a Super Saiyan. He's a Super Saiyan. He'll be the Super Saiyan.
Well, to be fair, I blame that on Vegeta because he wouldn't shut up about it.
But yeah, they have the great. But we have Frieza kill. I think Vegeta's killed in this episode again. He's like resurrected, then killed again. But I do know for a fact Piccolo is knocked out, and then Krillin is killed in this episode, which triggers the transformation that we've kind of been building to for like the last 100 episodes.
One of the most epic transformation scenes of all time, and it holds up. Everybody talks about the newer transformations, not just in Dragon Ball, but just in anime nowadays, and I respect that, but some of you guys will never know what it's like. And that, I know that makes me sound old and I don't really care, but it was one of the most epic and badass transformations at the time.
Yeah, and this was, I mean, peak animation for the time when you think about it, because they really knew what they were doing with and took their time when they designed this transformation and these scenes.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that. Now depending on what you watch, whether it's Dragon Ball Z or Dragon Ball Z Kai, the time of it might shrink, like it might take a little longer, but it's still great. It still holds up.
Yeah. Your next or your first honorable mention?
Okay, just a heads up, I have three honorable mentions.
Same. So that
Okay,
was my first.
just want to be 100% clear. Okay, Black Clover episodes 89 and 90, The Black Bull's Hideout and Crazy Magic Battle. I talked about this a little bit in the best anime arc, so I'm not going to harp on it too long, but basically all the Black Bulls decide, okay, we have to go off on our missions, we have to prepare for the war against the elves, and Gauche, Gordon, and Gray are the ones left behind. And the whole time we're thinking, okay, so Ghost is going to say something weird about his sister, and we're all just going to move on and act like it's normal, which it's not, but okay. Oddly enough, Ghost is the most normal person at that table. Oh, Gray's too scared to talk, and we can't hear a damn thing Gordon's saying, despite the fact that he's trying. But it's just a funny beginning to the episode because Ghost is showing off his doll. He's like, "Look at my darling Marie. Look at my darling sister doll." Oh, and Gordon reveals he has dolls of everybody else, and they look terrifying. I love you, Gordon, but those dolls were terrifying. Also, I'd loved one of me. And it's basically the Eye of the Midnight Sun show up. Sally, Evados, and Rate. Dang, I'm blanking out on their names right now. But anyways, Sally and everybody else show up, and they want to take up the Black Bull's hideout and find the gems that they're hiding. Ghost tries to fight, and we learn that Gray can transform other people's magic into other types of magic. It's a really cool little thing. It would have been nice if we had seen that, her learn that on screen, but whatever. And we also learned that Gordon's magic is poison, and he even straight up says, "As I can finally use my magic because we're dealing with undead zombies, so I don't have to worry about killing everybody." And Ghost just looks at me, he's like, "Damn, dude." I'm like, "Yeah, I agree. That's horrifying." Hey, the nicest person in all of the Black Bulls has the most terrifying magic. And they get beaten up a little bit, and as their hideout's getting raided, we learn about Gray and Gordon's backstories about how Gray lost trust in people because of how much she transformed, and how Gordon and his magic scared people away. And then we get a series of moments of them at the hideout and just them becoming friends with everybody, and how they're willing to fight for their hideout. And all of a sudden, we get the newest Black Bull, Henry, who can basically turn the building into a giant Megazord.
Okay, I do know which episodes you're talking about. I
Yeah,
haven't seen these episodes, but I do remember seeing these
yeah.
scenes.
And we get to see just how well all four of them work together, and it's just a really cool episode with a lot of funny moments. It's the last blow in this fight is one of the best. It's one of the best moments in the whole show.
All right, sounds like a really good set of episodes because you said it was
Yeah.
2 episodes, right?
Yep. 89 and 90.
Okay. All right. So my next honorable mention though is Fairy Tale season 4, episode 17.
I don't have anything to say. Go on.
It's so this is during the Grand Magic Games. I've mentioned it before. It's my favorite arc of the series. Um, but it's 100 versus 100 against 1. Um, this is just a really good episode for the one of the main leads, Urza. She decides that so pretty much the challenge in this episode is there are 100 monsters like with progressive different levels. So there's like 50 of them are level 1, there's level 2, level 3, I think there's a level 4, and then there's a level S, and there's only one level S monster. And it's supposed to be everyone, you say how many monsters you think you can defeat this round, and you go in and kill them, and then you come out and you get however many points based on the level of the monster. Well, she decides that draws the first lot. She's going to take on all of them, and it's supposed to be that no one's supposed to be able to take out all of them, and she does. So it's just a good episode for her. Shows how powerful she actually is, and it leads to one of my other favorite moments where they're like, "Well, we don't know how to place the other 7 teams. They didn't go in and fight any monsters." So they bring out this magic testing device, which the other fairy tale team just destroys. Like their person has an attack that uh, literally destroys the device and maxes out its counter. Like, okay, so we don't know what to do with her either. So they get second and first.
I'd be like, all right, I am not messing with that person. But yeah, I guess I just have to co-sign.
Yeah. All right. So your next honorable mention?
Yeah, okay. Beelzebub episode 30 and 31. Who could the Rokase be and the dispute was not settled? I talked about this before in the best anime arcs or our favorite anime arcs. It's basic but I want to talk about the fight in between a little more. Or we basically get the six saints of the new school versus our main cast, who, like I said, are not friends at this point, but they're willing to work with each other. Everybody looks good in these next few sets of episodes. Oh, it's especially Kanzuki, because while he does get knocked out immediately at one hand, one of his subordinates, Shiroyama, he gets taken out by some of the students from the other school. And in the first few episodes when that happened, Kanzuki's like, whatever, he was weak. But now that the series has progressed, he actually gets pissed. Like, you do not mess with him. You mess with him, you mess with me. So it's a great sense of character development for him that he's actually cares about his subordinates, who he's actually starting to call his friends. Oga and Mickey have a great fight with each other. Natsume is trapped in an armbar at some point, but then Kanzuki shows back up, and Natsume is basically like, "Hey man, your grip is slipping on my arm," and the guy's like, "Wait, what are you talking?" Natsume just gently pushes him off, and he gets away. Hey, wait, it's one of me and Reese's favorite scenes, just for how silly it is. Like, hey, your grip's slipping. What? See ya, nerd. Or I'm out. And Kanzuki tries to fight Mickey and gets knocked out by Oga, of all people. And everyone's like, wait, why'd you knock out your friend? And Mickey's like, that was a good choice. That was a good thing what you did. This next attack I would have done, I don't know if I would have been able to hold back. I might have killed him. And everyone's like, Oga, did you know that? And Oga's like, no, he was just in the way. I really wanted to fight him. And everyone's like, you're an idiot. More and more people join the fight, and Tojo shows up. Tojo being he used to be the strongest person at his school until Oga beat him. Probably one of my favorite characters of the whole series. The Knights try and gang up against him, and they all hit him, and Tojo's like, "Huh, that hurt a little bit." I'm like, "Oh my god, he's going to kill them." Then they have to call off the fight, and everyone's supposedly going to get expelled. And like I said, it leads to a volleyball game. Because that isn't that how you settle disputes at your school? Just volleyball?
No.
Damn. That would have been a great way to settle things at school. Just games of volleyball, just violent games of volleyball. But like I said, honorable mention. I've talked about it before. It's a great arc, but those two episodes in particular are really good.
Yeah, that's interesting. I do remember enjoying a handful of the episodes I watched, but I just never got around to going back and watching it myself. I know I've seen the actual first like 5 episodes in order, and then I had class like when you were watching it, so I just never went back and watched.
Yeah, but like I said, I do love Beelzebub. Maybe I'll talk about it at some point, like more substantially.
All right.
Anyways, that's all my honorable mentions.
I thought you had one more.
Oh snap! I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I do have
And
one more honorable mention. My bad. I'm sorry.
I also do. I was like,
Yeah, sorry about that. Go ahead.
all right. So mine is Pokemon Season 5, so Master Quest,
Of course.
episode 60. Uh, Can't Beat the Heat. This is the climactic battle, the ending of the battle between Ash and Gary.
Okay, all right.
So I've talked a little bit about this. I may have even put it on my favorite episodes of, or my favorite battles in Pokemon, but
There's a very good chance you might have.
again, this is just a really good. Ash finally beats Gary. He may, I think he's beaten him once before, or in like a one-on-one situation, but they've never had a full team battle. Gary's always been better than Ash, and he's always ahead. He's always uh, gotten the badge first. The entered the league. He's got more badges. He's caught all the Pokemon.
He has like 10 badges in one case.
Yeah, and it's not even all of the badges that you actually know of in Kanto. We don't even know where he got some of them.
No, well, it's like we said. It's like we said with Drew. He just makes his own badges slash ribbons, and they're both just very sad about it.
Yeah, so in the end, Ash wins with they have their climactic battle, Charizard versus Blastoise, and we end up with ending it with seismic toss. So we get the iconic Charizard flying around the Earth scene, and then it drops Blastoise, winning Ash the battle. It's just a really good ending, and then I think get this may be the episode where Gary says that he's going to become a researcher.
Yeah, yeah, I do agree. This is one of the best battles. I feel like it kind of gets overshadowed nowadays because we've had a lot of great battles since then. And
Yeah.
but this it was a really solid episode and a really good battle.
I mean, in my opinion, again, at this point, Ash didn't need to win, but this could have also been a good way of ending it. Ash conquers his rival. He still doesn't win, but he's now the best trainer out of Pallet Town at this point.
Yeah, out of the other trainers of Pallet Town who got Charmander and Bulbasaur, but we don't know they are.
They kind of just, based on everything that they mentioned, they just kind of stopped after like the second gym.
That's depressing. Anyways, hey, speaking, can I go to my next honorable mention?
Yep. Last honorable mention for this time.
Okay, Psyche K Season 2, Episode 13. Now, admittedly, the reason this is an honorable mention because you know Psyche K, it's split up into like 5 different segments or episodes.
Mhm.
I really only included this because the main things I care about are the first 2 parts. The other 3 parts are good, just not great in my opinion. So, one of the characters who I don't think you ever got to see, her name is Ayura, and she's a soothsayer. Like she can see the future and all that jazz. In the first episode she was in, she helped people kind of see just basic stuff like is there going to be a test or when am I going to find a boyfriend, that sort of thing. And you remember Mara, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. And Mara all of a sudden shows up and she says, "Can you help me find my dad?" And I'm like, and everyone's like, "Whoa, this is kind of a dark turn. This is a gag anime, sweetie." And then she basically says, "Oh, your dad's in Puerto Rico." And in this episode, it's kind of revealed because one of the things about Mara is her family is extremely poor. They used to be rich, their company went under, and now they can barely afford meals. Sometimes it's hilarious, sometimes it's not. But Ayura tells Psyche, because she's one of the few people who knows about his powers. She tells him, hey, her dad's in Puerto Rico. Why don't you teleport over there or grab him and teleport back? And Psyche's like, don't you think that's going to have a little bit, don't you think we're going to have to explain some stuff like how he just magically got back from Puerto Rico? Because Puerto Rico and Japan, they're just a walk away, right? Hey,
Mhm.
I don't know. I didn't do that well in geography, so I don't know. And we know Psyche's shtick. He's a nice guy, but he doesn't want people to find out about his powers. Frankly, I don't blame him. So Ayura and Mara, they're still figuring things out together, and Psyche basically gets kidnapped by these loan sharks who Mara's dad have been interacting with. But as they're about to grab him, Psyche he turns and makes a face like, "I'm sorry, who's kidnapping who at this point?" And it's terrifying. I'll admit that. And Mara meets her dad again after 2 years, and she's like, "Wait a minute, why are you running away from us?" And it's revealed. Well, and I'm thinking to myself, "Oh, it's a gag anime. It's not going to be that bad." And he basically reveals, "I'm going to die, so you and your mother and your siblings have the insurance money." And I'm like, "This is a gag anime, right? I should be laughing, right?" And of course, Psyche saves the day. He stops the loan sharks, and the family's reunited. It's 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 a strange episode for how dark it gets at times, but I do appreciate it, especially with how happy of an ending it had.
Yeah, it sounds like a pretty good episode. I don't. You said this was season 2, right?
Yeah, this is one of the best parts of season 2.
Yeah, because again, we had, besides astronomy, we had such different schedules that we were never in there that during these
Yeah,
premieres.
yeah. Not to and you can even. It's one of those things where a lot of it kind of started a running joke with people because a lot of people on the internet have said, "Wait, he saved her dad from basically from essentially killing himself in a sense." And I'm like, yeah, it's just like, how did she not fall in love with him? I'm like, I don't know, and I don't really care. Stop asking me.
Yeah, we all know that best girl is normal boy.
Yeah, obviously. Which is why I'm glad I didn't watch the episode with you guys, because if you saw Psyche and Mara interacting, you would have teased me about them. But we're not going to get into that. All I'm going to say is it's a great episode. Oh, it's not too dark, but it still has some funny moments. And I just want to say it's a great episode that didn't have Teruhashi. So Teruhashi, you can suck it.
All right, so now we're on to our actual final choices.
Yes, and I did my list in order, so I don't feel too bad.
Um, I kind of am all over the place. I mean, none of these are.
That's fine. They know
Yeah.
they know our list by this point. They know how we work. It's fine.
So I have a feeling you're going to take your headset off for this. So I'm just preparing you. My Hero Academia, season 4, episode 23. Let It Flow School Festival.
Lame. Okay. Well, all right. So can I just? So you said these are the worst episodes we're talking about, right?
No, and this is actually a really, really nice episode.
Fine. Whatever. Let's get this over with.
So this is there's been an arc going out throughout season 4 involving them attacking and the Shie Hasaikai, which is a branch of the Yakuza. Um, they're selling a drug that enhances the powers of people, but also they're working on inventing one that completely removes powers and destroys the genes that caused them. And in order to do this, they're using the power of this little girl named Eri, um, who's, I think 5 or 6 years
Is she
old.
the little girl with white hair
Yes.
who Mineta was creeping on?
Yeah, he does creep on her in an episode. That is
Yeah,
the
yeah,
sad part.
yeah. I see. I'm not completely clueless.
But pretty much they've in the first half of the series of the season, it's all about trying to save her from uh, the bad guys and kind of just rescue her so that she doesn't have to keep getting sliced open by the bad guys to steal her power. That's literally how they're doing it. They're slicing her open, and then the bad guy uses his power to reset her back
Yeah,
to.
that's what I do all the time to get people's powers. What are you talking about?
I know, but then there, once they freed her, it's revealed she lives such a horrible life. She doesn't know how to smile at all. She's been tortured since she was, I mean, real little, like 3 or 4. They flash back to when she was even younger than where she is, and it's like they show the bad guy cutting her open at one point. It's not. They go through a lot of this in this season, and then they've had a kind of a mini arc where there's a bad guy called Gentle Criminal who's just wanting to make himself famous by breaking into places.
Gentle criminal. Is he a comedic villain?
Yes,
Okay, I was about to say with a name like that and a motivation like that, you'd have to be comedic.
he's he's almost stereotypical British. Like he has, he's very like tea is important. It's part of his ritual. He has to drink tea before he does a heist.
I mean,
Um,
to be fair, you have to get drunk before you fly a helicopter in Grand Theft Auto. So I wouldn't be dissing him.
but um, it's kind of the end of his arc at the beginning of this one. He loses to the main character Midoriya, and then gets captured by the main heroes. Um, then they have, but the main focus of this episode is the school festival. It's
I was about to say it has school festival in the title. I'd hope so.
yeah. So they've realized the entire class has realized that they've caused such issues for the other students. They feel so bad, so they want to try to make their thing, their presentation or their class project for the other students. They want to show their feelings to the other students so that they understand they don't want to be the problem of it, that they've been. It's not their fault, really, kind of thing. They've they've been attacked by the League of Villains like 4 times at this point in less than a year of school.
Okay, just a little sidebar. Wasn't the League of Villains the title of a Jimmy Neutron special?
Possibly, I don't know.
God, okay. I was about to say if the three lizard guys are in My Hero Academia, I might have to give it a chance.
There is a lizard guy in My Hero Academia.
Is
He's not funny like them, though. He's
oh
like the
that's
one serious character in the League of Villains.
oh that's upsetting.
Um, but they actually put on an amazing song. It's called Hero 2. It's just a really good song. The artist who actually sings it is an American artist they hired to do the singing. Um, but again, part of it is that like the whole class wants to save or is trying to do something nice for the rest of the students, but Midoriya's main thing is he wants to make Gary smile. That's been its whole thing. And I know it's music, it's kind of cliche when, oh, their music's lifted them up and made her smile, but it is a very sweet moment when it
Is
happens.
okay, all right. Just okay. Before we move on. Like, I co-sign onto this. The person singing this song is what character sings this song?
Her name is Jiro. She's the one, if you see images, she's got the like the like that.
Like, just describe her hair to me.
It's short, but she's got like longer
Does she?
sideburns.
Does her hair kind of look like Hinata's?
Yes.
Okay, I know who you're talking. See, I know stuff. I know stuff.
Yeah, but it's not actually her voice actress. It's they hired an American band to make the song, and in my opinion, it's a really good song.
Okay, yeah, I guess I can co-sign on to that. And I've heard bits and pieces of the song, and I do like it. But that's pretty much all I can say about My Hero at this point.
All right. So your final episode.
Yep, an anime you talk about a lot. I guess I'm gonna go with an anime I like to talk about a lot. Gintama. Gintama episode 114. Oh boy. Gintama episode 114. They say soy sauce on pudding tastes like sea urchin, but soy sauce on pudding only tastes like pudding and soy sauce. That's the name of the episode. Yeah, Gintama gets crazy with its episode dials, but I've spoken before about the Mitsuba about Sogo's sister or in her arc.
Mhm.
Basically, Hijikata doesn't want to get closer because he's afraid he'll die and it'll make her sad. But this isn't necessarily a follow up to it, but in a way, it kind of is. So Hichikata's boss's boss is Matsudaira. He's a manly man with guns and he is terrifying. But he also has a daughter named Kuriko, and unlike him, she's actually really sweet and nice to everybody. And during an episode earlier in the season, she's dating a boy, and Matsudaira's like, I want everybody in the Shinsegumi army to watch them, to make sure he doesn't do anything with my little girl. And through a bunch of hijinks and everything, they basically convince this girl that Hichikata is an alien of some kind basically named Mayora or Mayo. Yeah, that happens. But and in this episode, they meet up again. They meet up again in the episode. I'm not reading the whole episode again. It's too much work. But they basically meet up in a convenience store, and Matsudaira says, "Hey, Ichikata, go make sure nothing happens to my little girl." Well, she's getting flirted with with a bunch of the people who work there, and Ichikata kind of steps in, and he's like, "Hey, what are you guys doing with my woman? What are you guys doing with her?" And he scares them off because he's terrifying. And as they're leaving the store, he kind of has to tell her, "Look, that was just pretend, right? I'm just trying to protect you, and she's not buying it. She's kind of like, oh, you're so charming and shy. And he's like, no, that's not it. That's not it. So Gintoki and the others, they overhear this while sitting in a park with a bunch of couples making out. And they basically are like, oh, every couple in this park should die. I'm like, yeah, I kind of feel the same way. Hey, you sick freaks. But they overhear the conversation and they're like, okay, we'll help you break up with this girl. Well, but you'll owe us one. And he's like, fine, fine. So they go on a date the next day, and he does everything he can to make sure they break up. He tries to take her to an ecchi movie. Is that how you pronounce it? Ecchi?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah. An ecchi movie. He's like, oh, now she won't think I'm cool. And she's like, I'll go if you want to go. Oh, and he's like, okay, that's a little weird. They go to a restaurant, and the Hijikata special is rice with everything on it and mayonnaise on top of it because Hijikata loves mayonnaise. And she loves it. She calls it the one piece of flavors in her mouth. Oh, and Hijikata's like, she really likes it. And everyone's watching. It's like, wait, is he liking this? And then they dress up as they disguise themselves as gangsters, and Hichika's like, please don't hurt us. Please, I'll give you everything you want, which is hilarious considering how much of a badass this guy is. And all of a sudden, as they're beating him up, Shinpachi says, yeah, you take this, you dirty coward. How come you're on so many of the DVDs? How come you sell more merch than me? I'm like, guys, you're not supposed to use this to whatever. And all of a sudden, it's sunset, and they still haven't broken up. And Gintoki kind of pulls Hichika aside and said, you can be ready to run away from this girl, but if you run away, you have to be sure you're ready to never see her again. And which is a really powerful thing to think about. Like, you can run away from something, but you're not always going to get a chance to redeem yourself. All of a sudden, Hichika reappears in front of Kuriko, and he's in a mayonnaise costume. Any thoughts?
Nah, seems about par for the course.
Yeah, and he basically tells her, "Oh, I'm an alien from and he starts saying mayo after all of his sentences. So he basically tells her, "I'm an alien and I have to go back to my planet." And she stupidly believes it for whatever reason. And she's like, "Let me go back with you." And she starts crying about it. And he says, "Oh no, my planet, it's covered entirely by mayo. The streets, the shops, even the atmosphere is completely mayo." I'm like, this is so stupid. But he basically tells her, "Hey, I'll always be looking after you." And she hesitates, and then she kisses him on the cheek. All of a sudden, Gintoki and friends show up in mayo costumes with a little... It's like a rickshaw. I don't know exactly what it is, but it's a rickshaw. And he rides off, and Kuriko thinks, we'll see each other again someday. It's a brilliantly beautiful, stupid episode. It's Gintama in a nutshell. And at the very end of it, everyone's like, wait, Hijikata, you're kind of thinking about something. Are you sad that you have to say goodbye to your girlfriend? He's like, oh, shut up. And everybody basically laughs, looks away. And you could tell Hijikata kind of has a look like, huh. Like, he's thinking, like, it's kind of implying that maybe he likes her back. I mean, guys, if a girl eats mayonnaise with you, watches ecchi with you, and watches you get beaten up by people jealous of your fan status, she might be the one. So shoot your shot, guys. Do what you can. But like I said, it's a brilliantly beautiful, stupid, hilarious episode. And that's Gintama in a nutshell.
Yeah, I mean, of the episodes I've seen with you, that literally describes like 99% of the episodes. The other 1% are the somewhat serious episodes that ever happen like once a season.
Yeah, watch Gintama, they said. It's a comedy, they said. You bastards lied to me. But anyways, I know you haven't seen this episode, so you're forced to co-sign. And we have to acknowledge one of the best episodes of anime being, they say soy sauce on pudding tastes like sea urchin, but soy sauce on pudding only tastes like pudding and soy sauce. Yep. So what did you guys think? What are some of your favorite episodes in anime? Be it a franchise we've talked about, ones we haven't talked about, just anything. Whether they're goofy, serious, or a little bit of both.
Yeah, I mean, I think we covered a wide range of funny, serious, important to the story or plot episodes. there's a lot of amazing episodes in anime. What they can do with it is just awesome.
Yeah, I was about to say that with the amount of bad episodes in anime and with the amount of awesome episodes in anime, we could do lists like this pretty much till the end of time, and nobody would be bothered by it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but we're gonna wait to do sequels on these because we have sequels for other videos planned. But anyways, like, subscribe, buy the merch on the spring, and let us know.
This has been This has been Richard.
And Alex.
This has been the Anime Egotists. Great. Just remember, if you disagree, you're wrong.
Good night, and peace easy, Mayo.